running streams and stuff of games through
Oh,
Google
we're
Hangouts.
we're live. We're live.
Hello.
He was talking. He was talking. And welcome to Game It Tech It All, week 2 of the podcast. I'm your host, Pino25, and we are live. Better than last week, because last week wasn't that great. Because last week was an alpha test, and I am your host, Pino25.
I'm thoroughly embarrassed because this game was supposed to have started. It's not going.
It's like, why is it not loading? So you are...
Adelaris.
There you go. And we also have...
Ricky, because I don't like using fake names on the internet.
Well, yeah.
That's not true.
Oh, Mr. Important. Look at
Yeah,
him.
Mr. Important.
Yes, I am professional. This is the internet. We do not lie on the internet. We are, who we are. So yeah, we are doing a special episode tonight because tomorrow I got better things to do. I'm gonna go see Deadpool, and when we do Game It All after this, Grim's not here because he had better plans. He didn't want to do the podcast. Because, he had to go watch Deadpool. Whatever. So, yeah, I'm taking over. It's the Pino25 edition of the show, which is 110% more raunchy. Oh, yeah. Not really.
I've already read some of the reviews on Deadpool, and the people who review it without knowing really what Deadpool's about.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, they're shitting on the movie, but like they don't understand that he's supposed to break the fourth wall. He's supposed to be entirely immature.
I know, like, most of the reviews are like, this guy's an asshole. That's pretty much it. This guy's a frickin' asshole. What the hell? How'd they give him his own movie? How's he a superhero?
He's not. That's the point.
Well, that's just it. He was gonna die, and he found a way to survive. So, but I'm excited to go see it tomorrow. It's gonna be amazing, and yeah, that's all I could say. Okay, so let's start this week 2 of the podcast. Our title for the show, oh my God, I didn't do that. I didn't hit publish on the site. Luke's gonna yell at me. Oh my God. So the title for our show is This Is Our Story, Our Humble Beginnings as PC Gamers and PC Tech Enthusiasts. So, let's do our topics for PC Tech Enthusiast. Are we tech enthusiast? Enthusiast? Is that the word?
Enthusiast, yes.
There you go. So, our first question for us is, your first PC, like when you were younger and you had a family computer, what was it? Like, what made it awesome? And what kind of specs did it have? What's your story?
Who's going first?
Adelaris?
Me?
Well,
Okay.
Yeah, we can start with you.
Because I'm the oldest, I guess. I honestly managed to skip the Windows 95 era, but I have touched them before, but I was still too young at the time to be like allowed by the adults because they didn't really understand the tech themselves.
Okay.
But my first computer was a laptop, actually. There's a lot of story about how my mom got her hands on it, but it was basically given to her as a gift, like $2,000 at the time. It held an entire 300 megabytes of hard drive space, Windows 98.
There you go.
And like the original LCD screens and everything, like you touch the screen, you see the liquid crystals spread out.
Yep.
And I think I was like grade 6 or 7 at the time, so I was just old enough to start really getting how machines worked. And I friggin' fell in love with it because I discovered what MIDI files were. And I'm like, this sounds like my Super Nintendo. I collected so much MIDI files, I filled almost the entire hard drive with just MIDI files. Like, it was insane. About a month later, my mom and her then husband had broke up, and he took my laptop and left.
Oh, there you go.
So that was my first tech heartbreak at the time.
Oh my God, it's gone. It's gone. It's all gone.
Yeah,
There's
I
my
just
data.
I woke up then one morning. I went to go to where it was on the desk, and it was just printer paper like laid over to try to hide where it should be. And I'm like, something's weird. So I moved the paper, and it's just like the cabling. It's gone.
There you
And
go.
the door had been broken into.
Oh,
but,
Jesus.
About a week later, though, somebody else in the family gave us an actual desktop Windows 98, and I continued to learn from there.
Okay.
I ended up getting my own computer, which was a Windows XP Media Center edition. So it had, like, it was one of the first main ones to ever have, like, a hot swappable hard drive bays and such.
Was it an HP?
It was an HP, and it was both, like, good for what I used it for,
Yeah.
but extremely infuriating to use because I never had luck with HP computers. Every HP I ever owned had something significantly wrong with the hardware. And this one would, at random, freeze. So, like, the audio would sound like a CD skipping, and it would just freeze for about 10 seconds. You couldn't do anything. If you were playing a game that required actual
sound. Yeah.
Not active sound, but actual input.
Okay.
You were guaranteed dead. So if you tried to play something like an FPS, you were just standing there for the 10 seconds that the computer was locked.
So you're the guy that was always standing in the fire in WoW.
Yeah, pretty much. The healers loved me. Eventually, I would go to college within a few months after getting it, and I learned enough about computers that I realized there was something wrong with the motherboard.
Yeah.
That's also where I learned to really start depending on myself for hardware fixing, because at the time it was under warranty with a company called Staples. Yeah, that laughing basically sums up how my trip went. I don't think I've ever been as angry regarding tech as I had at that point in my life, because, you know, when your only computer is being screwed, they basically sent it off to get repaired by their head office. They lost it for 3 months, did not give me any replacement or nothing in the meantime, and when I got it back, the entire front was gone. And I had no reimbursement for it. So, yeah. After that, learned to build my own computers. I chose where my hardware came from. I chose how it got handled and installed. If there was any issues, I knew what to do with it. And that's basically the moral of the story. If you want to build a PC, you do it yourself. If you want it done right.
We just got word. You gotta close the game.
Oh. Doing now.
Okay. So we're back to the desktop. Okay, so Rick, what's your story of what made the PC awesome for you?
Oh, God, 10 minutes at a time growing up. We had a shared family computer, and of course, having a big family, we were only allowed 10 minutes a day.
Yeah.
First PC, like I don't think I ever got past the first level of Quake until like 3 years after. But yeah, first computer I remember using was actually an old DOS computer. Then we upgraded to a 3.11 Windows, which had no games on it, and then Windows 95, which again shared family computers I never really used.
Yeah.
The first computer I actually remember playing games on was one that was bought from Staples. And yeah, like I guess the main games I played back then were mainly Valve. I bought the what was it? The Orange Box? Yeah, the Orange Box.
Okay, yeah.
And I played essentially every Half-Life game repeatedly because that's all I had. Until later on, I built my first computer. But of course, I like tinkered in computers in between. But my first build, I built it.
Builds are coming after.
I'm just saying, my first personal computer, which I built.
Okay, yeah.
I built just so I could play Crysis 2 Maxed. And that was
there you
awesome.
go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
and
about
since
the same.
then, I've been a hardcore PC gamer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that's pretty much it. Short story.
And that's what made you go, my God, the PC is awesome.
Who needs console?
Yeah, who needs consoles? Potato race. Who needs the potato race? All right. So I first started PC gaming way back in like 1994, 95 when my father bought a secondhand desktop, like physical desktop that you put the monitor on top, and it was an old ICL Ergo Pro that we got from the college up home. And it had a 486 DX2 with like 8 megs of RAM, 8 or 16 megs of RAM, next to nothing, and it had like Windows 3.1 on it, and it was awesome because you could like mess with the colors and stuff, and it was just and just the customization and the different things that you could do, and also playing old school games on floppy. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, Commander Keen.
And then yes, Commander Keen, the old Duke Nukem games. All these awesome simple games on floppy were just amazing. So yeah, and I remember we got a CD drive for it. That was an awesome upgrade, and it was just a special piece of hardware. And I still have the case, because I kept the case because it had a big honking orange button for the power button. It was amazing. But yeah, and I think he only paid like $300. But it was, I spent so many hours playing stuff on it, and just opening it up and tinkering with it was just one of the first times that I really got to go, oh, awesome! I get to change stuff. And they were like, whatever, we didn't pay that much money for it, so I didn't get bitched at for actually fucking with it, because they were like, if you don't bring it back to the state that you found it, well, you're screwed. So you have to get it fixed by, my cousin, because he was an IT person in the early 90s, so we'd have to go see him, and it was like, what did you do? Did you break it? I'm like, yeah. But I learned from it, and I got to get to the point that I'm at now, that building systems and doing all sorts of shit. So that's what made PCs magical and worth it.
I only accidentally fried one computer, and it wasn't mine. It was a Windows 3.1. This is before I owned one of my own, and in computer class, they taught us how to make space on floppy drives. So I had a floppy drive with some media files on it, and I went to put it in my aunt's computer, and like, can this play? And it didn't really work. But all right, well, I'll just clean it off. So I just forgot what the drive letter was.
Oh Jesus!
So I put C delete.
And then boom, it's gone.
Yeah, it just says, "Are you sure?" And then it's like, it's thinking, power off. Oh, what happened? Hit start. C drive not found. Oh boy. I did nothing. Turned that shit off and I left. I didn't say a word to anybody.
Can we just add a segment here to talk about how we fucked up a computer at least once?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, go right ahead.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
So,
I gotta
start.
tell my story, because it was actually a pretty funny one. Technically, my first ever owned computer was when I bought at a garage sale for $100. They had lied about the specs, and it only had like 256 gigs, not gigs, but megabytes of RAM, and I don't even remember what processor it had. But they said it was way more powerful than it was, and I was like, no, what? I can probably game with this, but I couldn't. And while I was trying to make it work, I don't remember what I did, but I got sparks to come out of the power supply.
Whoa. That's a pyromancer.
Really, right? Like, that was the biggest shit in my pants moment ever. And that was great.
Yeah, if you ever smell sulfur when you power a computer, chances are good that's your PSU and something is sizzling. And you want to turn that off and take it to an actual technician.
Yeah. Well, if it's sizzling, just unplug it.
Well, obviously, yeah.
Well, it's most likely dead, and you'll need a new PSU, because that's the first thing that dies on the PC. 9 out of 10 times.
It's usually that or the hard drives.
Yeah, because they're shitty.
It's funny though. I've never had a hard drive go bad on me in all my years of using computers.
Oh,
I've had a couple, but not from like faultware, but just from their age. For the most part, they're just like, oh yeah, this thing's like 10 years old, so obviously like I shouldn't expect it to be working at this point.
Yeah, that's
But,
true. Yeah.
But for the most part, most of my drives last way longer than their warranty, so I've been pretty fortunate.
yeah.
So what about you?
Corey? Or Adelaris?
I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, yeah. How did you F up something?
Let's see here. Other than that one computer, I did do some laptop repair recently to make some extra cash, and there was one that was given to me. It was explained to me that it was just a hand-me-down crapper. They just wanted to see if I could get it cleaned up and going. So I was trying to get it upgraded to Windows 10 because it just barely made the specs for it. And while it was updating, it started giving me errors that things aren't going right. So I'm like, all right, I'll give it a fresh restart. And then nothing happens. So I'm like, oh, okay. Let's try this again. Boot it up. It'll start loading in, and then nothing happens. I'm like, oh, okay, something's wrong. I pull out. I figured I must have accidentally toasted or corrupted the OS. So I'm like, well, let's just put this in my test bench, and it loaded up just fine. I'm like, oh, that can't be good. Put it back in the laptop, and then it starts like glitching and crashing again. I'm like, something's really wrong inside, and it's not the hard drive. I'm sorry, this thing's gone. So, just to like equalize it though, because I personally felt bad. Like it was a good friend of mine that trusted me to update it, but again, she was aware that thing was about to die regardless.
Yeah.
But what I did instead is I had an old Dell. I think it was the Core 2 Duo model.
Okay.
So it was not too old, but still kind of getting there. And I patched it up together, found a spare monitor I wasn't using, and just gave it. It said, here, take it. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I felt so bad when it stopped working. I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't work anymore.
It just died. For my deal, it's cracking shit open, and you have extra screws.
Oops. That happens a lot, actually.
Oh my god, you take printers are hands down the worst. Like these big office jet printers. Yeah.
The bigger it is, printers and laptops just have a ton of screws, and it doesn't help that laptops, like every one you touch, is built differently. So you got to really like memorize where you took all the screws from.
Pretty much. Yeah. Laptops are the worst, hands down the worst. That's why I have ice cube trays that I put all the screws in for the different parts of the laptop.
That's a good idea.
But yeah. So yeah, tech tip: if you're taking apart a laptop or something ridiculous that has a million screws, definitely get an ice cube tray. It'll solve your problems.
This will help. Take photographs as your steps.
Yes, take a crap load of pictures.
That applies with anything that's technical. Not just computers or printers, but anything that requires you to take anything apart.
For sure.
Yeah.
Take pictures, screenshots, lots of screenshots. So yeah, taking shit apart, that's where I fuck a lot of stuff up. But that's where you learn.
Yeah, for sure.
Well,
if
never got a power supply on a fire.
Yeah, I don't usually crack open power supplies.
No, I do not touch power supplies. I have a bad habit of getting electrocuted at least once a year from something. Not dead, thankfully, but the worst electrocution I've ever had, I was repairing a TV. It was given to me from my aunt, but it was an old, like those old big CRT ones before flat screens were modern.
Oh shit!
But that TV survived the ice storm in Quebec from 95, 96.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, and like it just like people died. Like that's how bad it was. And well, what happened is that something shorted out. It didn't break the TV, but there was a power coupling that basically wrapped around a coil, and it snapped. But there was still energy going like through it, so it was basically like touching really high speeds, and it would create like a buzzing sound, and nobody could figure out what it was. But eventually, I took the TV apart, and I listened very carefully next to the circuit board, and then like after a while I deduced like, oh, it's this one thing. And then when I wedged a piece of pencil into it up against a brace plate, it stopped making noise. So it's this. So I poured super glue all over it. No more problems. TV worked fine, but I wanted to test if the TV worked before I put the whole covering back together.
Yeah.
And told my brother, can you go underneath and turn off the power? I'm going to put some parts on. I want you to turn it on after so I can see if it's still working, make sure I didn't touch nothing. Power off? Yeah. Put my hand in there.
Yeah, those.
I actually, like, I locked up. It's scary, like when you get a really big jolt.
Yeah, that could have killed you.
Yeah, I locked up and all the hair on my body just stood on its end.
Yeah.
And he took off running. He did not want to be near me because I was furious.
Well, the one thing that I learned in A+ class was monitors. You're gonna get zapped. There's so much power in the old school monitors.
And
Yeah,
they will hold their charge forever too. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, because they got massive capacitors on them.
Yeah. Again, I didn't know this because this was prior to college, so I was sort of like a very much take apart and learn as I go kind of guy. But yeah, the TV lasted like another 3 years. Just no sound, worked perfectly. And then one day, same brother decides to put a glass of Kool-Aid on the top, and then my dog walks into the TV because he's dumb, and Kool-Aid goes right in. I'm playing Final Fantasy X, and just everything goes black. Boop, smoke comes out the top. I'm like, oh, I'm not even bothering this time.
Oh, Jesus.
On the other end, though, what's some of the coolest thing you've done, like tinkering-wise?
Who, me or Rick?
Both of you.
I've done a lot, and then again, not a lot. So, I mean, I've overclocked my processor to 4.6 gigahertz, so I was happy about that.
Not bad.
But not tech-wise, I've tinkered in cars, which is fun, but that's irrelevant for this podcast, so...
Unless it's a smart car, yeah.
Or Tesla.
Close
yeah,
enough.
that too, yeah.
In college, we are still in the introductory to computers, so they made us take apart computers manually and then rebuild them from scratch. And somebody asked if we could play some music because it was kind of boring. Everybody was just working quietly. But we realized that the only speaker in the classroom was the tone speaker for our motherboard to let you know if there was errors or not. Obviously, it's not meant to be played through music, so I snipped the cable and I soldered it to the sound card itself. And one end to the sound card, and then one end just soldered straight to the actual frame of the computer. And it worked just fine. So I got bonus points for my test. I played Iron Maiden for 4 hours until somebody told me to stop.
Oh, there you go.
Well, at least you had taste.
Yeah.
For tinkering, I don't know, media center things that I've built over the years, laptops that were broken that I repurposed into media centers that I took the screen off, that if the screen was broken and I took the screen off and I hooked it up into the media center so you could play all sorts of awesome games on the TV. I don't know, stuff. I don't know. They're just building shit and doing stuff and hooking crap up. It's pretty much it. I don't know. It's pretty much the craziest, but
Yeah. When it comes to tinkering, all I pretty much do is go on YouTube, look up for a guide.
Yeah, that or yeah,
Yeah, there's
look
so
at
many
it. And,
how-tos. It's super helpful when you can actually see it visually instead of just reading it sometimes.
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
changing the hard drive on my wife's Mac, the iMac. My God, that was a pain in the ass because you had to take the plastic, the oh, I can't remember. It's plastic glass. What is that called?
Plexiglass?
Yes, because there's a sheet of plexiglass, then you have the screen. You have to take off the sheet of plexiglass, the screen, and then you have to take off the motherboard to get to the hard drive that's at the back of the thing. Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's why iMacs should just be thrown in the trash when something breaks. They're just not worth fixing.
Well, the hard drive wasn't broken. It was only 320 gigs, and she needed bigger.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it. Like we put a 2 terabyte hard drive in. That was pretty much the only thing. Like changing the RAM, no big deal. You take the little door off the bottom and just slap the 2 sticks in. But the hard drive, you have to take it all the way to the back of the frickin' thing. And it's like, who thought this was a good idea? Because a hard drive is one of the first frickin' things that fail. It's like... But yeah. It was quite the thing to take apart. Yeah. Pretty much. So next topic. Let's move on to the next topic. First PC game that made you go, the PC is awesome because of modding or just graphic upgrades or just the game was amazing on the PC. And you spent hours upon hours playing it and going, oh yeah.
The first... Oh, sorry, you can go first.
Okay, yeah. Half-Life. I don't know if you guys remember. Yeah, like Half-Life, multiplayer especially. I don't know if you guys remember back when Counter-Strike was just a mod. That was the greatest I've ever played. The greatest game I ever played, or greatest mod, I should say. It was a whole new game inside of a game, and it was just so good, just perfect.
Cool.
Yeah.
I wasn't familiar with it at the time, but I think I mentioned it before where StarCraft 64 was my first taste of StarCraft, and it wasn't until I went to a tech center up at some school in a nearby town that I realized it actually was meant for the computer, and it played so much better. And I fell in love with the fact that you could actually hear the characters talk, something that wasn't in console games before.
No.
The first game of my own I owned for the PC was Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, which came in a cereal box.
Yes.
And I played the shit out of that. And the first game that actually made me wow was when Half-Life 2 first came out. That was right when I got my first personal computer.
Yeah.
And that was I can dig that.
My first game that I adored was Command and Conquer Red Alert, the original one.
Oh, God.
I spent so many hours just playing skirmish mode and just the map editor and just building my own maps and just tweaking the map and just making it amazing and just, oh my God, I spent so many hours playing that.
It's funny you mentioned that because last weekend I gave in and bought the 17-year edition just so I can play Generals again.
And the other game that really made me go wow was the original Quake. Just for first-person shooter-wise, I adored it because it was different. It looked amazing at the time, and I just loved it. I played it so much, and it was just, it was special.
You still see it played a lot now with that and Doom because of the remake of Doom coming out.
Yes,
So,
I'm very excited for that. Well, except for the cover of the game. The cover of the game still sucks. I'm still bitching about that. So. Also, next topic, we are talking about our first PCs we ever built, and how hard we had to work to get it. Well, I had to work my ass off to get mine, but yeah, and the
Yeah,
specs to it.
I think we all did. So I guess I'll go first.
Yeah,
Sure.
go right ahead.
All right. My first build. I was young. I was dumb. I spent $6,000.
Holy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
when was this? Like, what year?
oh, this was a decade ago, if not
Okay.
more. It was a long time ago. Uh, yeah, it was going on 11 years now.
So 2005, 2004.
More or less, yeah. It was back when the GTX 295 just came out. Yeah, we can just find out right now when it was, because I bought it the month, or built it the month it came out. Let me just do a quick Google search here.
That was the first GTX after the 9000
9.
series, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2008, was it really? Wow, so it wasn't even that long. Well, it was still fairly long ago, but it came out in 2008, January 2009. That makes no sense. But that's what it says here. But okay, so yeah, early 2009, and it was 6 gigs of RAM. It had the i7 940, I think it was.
Yeah, first gen.
3.2 or 2.9 gigahertz quad core. Had a decent motherboard, and it had 2 RAID 0, 256 gigabyte hard drives.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But the tower wasn't even the most expensive. It was my first computer. I had no monitor, no keyboard, no mouse, no headset. I had shit, so I had to buy everything that came with it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm actually still using my first 2 original monitors I ever bought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And what was the other part of the question?
Oh, that was. And how hard was it to pay for it?
Oh shit! Again, like I said, I was dumb at the time, so I actually took a loan out to build it.
Holy.
I was just sitting at home one day, and I was like, you know what? I want to build my first computer. So I called up the bank, set up an interview, and I got a loan for $6,000 to build my own computer.
Holy fuck. All right. That's hilarious.
So I
Your
did work
story.
hard for it because I paid it off for the next 5 years. But,
Yeah.
yeah.
My first one only cost me about $500. It was just for a tower because that was the only thing that needed replacing after my first computer. Trying to remember what was in it because it became my test bench for junk after.
Yeah.
It was a Core 2 Duo E2200, I believe.
Okay.
So it was pretty budgety. I had recycled the hard drives from the old computer, so I had about a total of 800 gigs from spread across like 3 drives.
Okay.
4 gigs of RAM. I don't remember. It was an AMD video card, but I don't remember what model it was. It wasn't very strong. Like it could run most stuff for like 2007 fine,
Okay.
but definitely not max settings.
So it's probably like an X500 series, or maybe like a 7.
I believe it might have been the 500 series. Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was not long after the first GTX ones came out, so
Okay.
it was not great, but it got me by.
Well, yeah. As long as it worked.
Yeah, and I remained with that one up until like 2011, and then I upgraded it to my first solid-state drive, which was my current Vertex 4 drive.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And I'm guessing it wasn't that hard to buy. Was it hard?
Not really. I don't recall having troubles. Like I was at a point in my life, I was starting to tank financially, but I was still making enough that I could pay it off in like 2 months, so
Okay.
it wasn't that big of a
That's
deal.
good. Yeah. At least it wasn't
Mine.
5 years.
Yeah. Mine came in the summer of 2006. I was like, oh my god, awesome. I want to buy a computer that has lights and it's not shitty. Because my parents had a Pentium 3 before that from from 2001. So I was like, I need more power. So I worked my ass off for a whole summer, and I essentially took all the money that I made to buy a system. It had a dual core. It was right when AMD brought out their first generation dual cores. It was Athlon X2, rocking 2.4. It was a 4800 plus chip. It was like $600 for the chip. It was ridiculous. And then I came to the realization the CPU is not everything. You should put your money into the video card. It had a DFI LAN party board, which was awesome because it was all neon color. It was yellow and orange and red. I had 2 gigs of OCZ DDR1 memory, and I bought a X1950 Pro from Sapphire, which was awesome, but which was $400.
Yeah.
And I stole hard drives from my old computer. The case was a Xpire weird funky case with a door and a window, and it had gauges on it for the fan and shit. And it was tacky as all hell, but it looked like something you'd see some douchebag with a Civic with neon colors underneath, and that's the most expensive thing on the car. Yeah. The lighting is worth more than the car, but the rest of the PC was pretty awesome. So,
can I just add in here real quick and ask you a question?
Yes.
Was that fan controller the biggest waste of money on your PC like mine was?
Yeah, it had the fan controller on the side, like built into the case, and I had a black light in it also, so the pieces of the motherboard would glow. It was a New Jersey PC, my god. Yeah. It was tacky as all hell.
I had an aftermarket Thermaltake, I think it was that made it for the fan controller and temperature gauge, and I plugged it in, set it, and never looked at it again.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like I don't even know why I bought it, and I paid like $400 for it at the time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so glad I don't waste as much money as I used to.
Yeah. How much does your current rig cost?
My current one? I bought it during Black Friday sales a couple years ago, 3 years, and it cost me a total of $1,300. But if I bought the parts for a regular price, retail price, it would have cost me around $25 to $28. So.
Jeez, you got a good deal there.
Yeah, but like I said, I bought a lot of like cards on sale. A lot of them had gift cards that came attached to it. So I bought my computer in sets. Like I ordered some parts some days so I could use the gift cards on my next purchase the next day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thrifty shopping.
It's how you got to do it.
Oh,
mine cost about $2,500, but I had built it all from parts I bought, mostly again on Black Friday sales.
Yeah,
so it would probably cost me more than $3,000 otherwise. That was about 2 years ago now.
Yeah. Mine was tax returns. Oh yeah, tax returns. It was, let's say, about $2,200 because I had the two 6870s inside the case in Crossfire. Stupid idea ever. Worst idea ever.
Yeah.
It's on fire.
Oh yeah, I know. And now it has my 960, my GTX 960. I love that card. And the other thing with my original motherboard, it has first generation Crossfire support. Oh yeah, which I didn't use because I wasn't gonna spend another $400 on a frickin' 1950. So yeah. All right, so that's our PC story. So let's talk about some games that are getting ported over to the PC, which we weren't expecting. Well, the last one we heard and it already came out, but the first one is Quantum Break, which is an Xbox One exclusive. Well, was exclusive, and they came out stating that it's going to come out on the PC the same day as the Xbox One. You don't have to wait.
I heard a lot. I heard that a lot of the console gamers were really pissed about that.
God,
Right,
it was hilarious.
We pay to play online. We should get exclusives.
They were like, oh my God, I paid. If I wanted to buy a PC, I would have bought a PC. It's like,
You can buy a PC?
just go buy one.
It's not like you're not getting the game.
Yeah.
The cross-buy thing.
I'm rent for that.
the whole cross-buy thing. If you buy it on Xbox, you can get the Windows 10 version, and it's
That's
like
pretty cool. I like that idea.
yeah. So
PlayStation has a similar thing with their cross platforms between some consoles, depending on the game.
Yeah, if you buy it on the PS, well, yeah, it was PS3. If you usually got the Vita game. So yeah, and people were pissed that it's coming to the PC because it's ruining their experience. It's like if you look at the architecture of the Xbox and the PS4, they're PC hardware. It's AMD built. So if they're not happy with it, well, whatever. They can go play Halo, which is console exclusive. They can play Forza, Gears. No, that's PC. or like the Rare Replay thing.
Yeah.
So they can suck it.
Well, they can keep all of those because we got better games on PC anyhow.
Oh my God, yes.
I'm personally not a game elitist. Like most of the games I enjoy playing with the option, I'd rather play with a controller just because I grew up on the retro consoles and that's natural to me.
Yeah.
But again, like, if somebody says it ruins my experience for this console because it came out on another console, they're flat out full of shit. And that goes both ways. If you wanted to buy the game for the Xbox, it's because you were looking for an Xbox game. Just because it came out on something else should not matter whatsoever. If you wanted it for that other platform, then go buy that platform. That's
well, yeah,
exactly.
That's just it. And like, I look at it like when I had for PS3 and Xbox 360, I buy games for one or the other because of who the developer was, and I look at their who they dev for, because some devs deal with Xbox, some devs deal with Sony, and it all depends on which platform gets you better frame rate and all these different factors. It wasn't just because of I'm going to buy it on the Sony platform or I'm going to buy it on the Microsoft platform. I look at all the different specs and different everything, so.
Yeah.
I also find that being available to multiple platforms helps both the consumer and the developer, because the developer can sell more copies if there's more availability, and the consumer has more choice for which console they want. I own both the PS4 and the X1, but I can only afford gold or live equivalent for one of them. So I'm biased to my PS4 because more of the games I enjoy playing are on that.
Yeah.
If there's a game that comes out that's on both, great. I get to choose which one I want. I can't play Halo Guardians online because I don't have Xbox Live for it. So that's a bit of a bummer for me, but it's the point of logic I have. All right, it was exclusive, but that's the detriment of it is there's limits that come with it. And the less limits on you, the better.
Well, yeah, because you have more choice as a consumer. You're not going, I have to buy this console to play this game. That was the nice thing about the whole Quantum Break thing. They're like, you can get it on PC. So I'm like, awesome.
Yeah. And I'd just like to add here that it's about time that we get more cross-platform games, too.
Well, and
there's no reason we couldn't play the majority of the games competitively against PS4 users if you have an Xbox.
It depends on the game, but it also makes more sense with this generation because the consoles are built like computers. They run x86 now.
Yeah.
Before you had to emulate for PowerPC, you had to emulate for custom chips of some other architecture, like with the cell architecture that PS3 had.
well, they're IBM based. They're both
Yeah.
PowerPC based. Like
Okay,
Spell is
yeah.
yeah, it's a whole deal. We could go into that whole thing because it's a tech based thing later on in some other episode. But yeah,
yeah.
it's on
Next week.
last generation. No, next week is special. Next week I have my whole deal.
Yeah.
But the whole thing is last generation IBM was killing it. They owned everything for hardware.
Yeah, and it's more financially reasonable to have switched to x86 because that makes porting a whole lot easier.
Oh my
They just have to
God.
do minor tweaks, and that's why more can come out from multiple platforms at once.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
another thing with you're starting to see some more games that are cross-playable now. Like, for example, Rocket League on PS4 can cross-play with the PC version.
Yep.
Yes.
You can't choose your party, if I remember right, but when you're playing with randoms online, some of them are PC players. The only real downside I can see to this, where there's a significant amount of detriment to one side, is first-person shooters, because obviously the mouse will have more accuracy than
Yes.
the controller. But
For sure.
for the most part, controllers have evolved quite a bit. So
Not-
unless you're really good with it, there's actually quite a fair deal of balance still.
And an
Well,
issue here is that on consoles, I don't play consoles. I don't know if this is still an issue, but back when I used to play, a lot of first-person games had auto-aim, even in multiplayer.
They still do.
They still do? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it all depends on the game.
Most games now, though, do give you the option to turn it off if you want, but it's still beneficial to have it because, like, the controllers have evolved. They've gotten more sensitive, so you can definitely tweak your control style for it. But I find that if you really like play it ramped all the way, you touch your joystick and you do a 180 and look the wrong way. So it's all up to the player style and like skill
Yeah.
level at that point.
Okay.
And also for Quantum Break, it's not the first time that Remedy brought their game that was exclusive to Microsoft platform to the PC. We look back at Alan Wake.
Yeah.
You know, that's the exact same thing. The same company, same type of deal. So if people want to bitch, look back at their past. You know.
Yeah,
So,
it's just the internet looking for an excuse to get it.
I know it is. It is.
Yeah, it was the same way. I don't know much about the company, but all I'm hoping is that the port is it's a good one, not like a lot of other things that have been ported.
Yeah, I'm not going to be surprised that it's going to be amazing because they did Max Payne, the original 2.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm guessing it's
Thumbs
going to
up.
be amazing.
Yeah,
So
experience.
the
Even if
next
it's not,
one,
I still use a PI controller, so it's not the end of the world.
yeah, you could still plug in a controller. I'm like most like third person kind of things. I usually use a controller. Like I usually
Yeah.
use my 360
It
controller
varies
plugged
on-
in.
For what I'm doing. If it's like a driving game, I'll use a controller. If it's
Yeah, there's no way in hell that I'm using a keyboard and mouse for a driving game.
no,
'cause
it's like
that
steering
just
completely
sucks.
all the way, all the time.
Oh my god, that just sucks.
What's nice too
Um,
is that Windows 10 supports controllers natively now, at least for Xbox ones. I don't know about the PS4 ones still, but yeah, it shows how much like evolution between the two are in there now. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and
There's no point getting mad.
Microsoft's really pushing the PC. It's surprising, like right now.
It's
So
good.
I'm amazed.
Well,
Let's
yeah.
continue.
yeah,
Let's continue with racing games and EA doing something right, correctly.
But are they though?
They
Are they?
Well, from the trailer, I was amazed because they showed off the PC reveal for Need for Speed of 2015, and it brought me back to the good old days of Need for Speed Underground with the damn song. And I was like, oh yeah, and then they started blurting out what they were doing. They have 4K, they have unlocked frame rate, support for steering wheels and controllers. So, yeah. Comments?
I'm not a race
Yeah.
car fan, so I don't care. But
I like I like
I
realism in my
Yeah.
racing games.
like the fact that at least it's available now. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not a shitty port from what it looks like. It's not going to be shitty because for a long time ports were equal
Bad.
crap because they didn't care. Well, Ubisoft didn't succeed. Go with that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't get me wrong. I like different racing games. I like different things.
Yep. Nothing
Yeah,
wrong
so-
with that.
I'm sure it'll do well. It's not something I think any one of us here really care for. Need for Speed.
mm,
Yeah. Like I remember the old days back on my original, like the older computers, playing the original Need for Speed games. That was fun.
oh my god!
When the cops were chasing you, you were playing as the cop. That was so
Yeah,
much fun.
I wrecked frickin' Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit. I love that game. And
Yeah.
that was before I had a controller, so it was keyboard all the way.
Something funny about racing games, like I barely played any, but one that I played not too long ago, I think it was like 2 or 3 years now, was Forza.
Yes.
And
Pay to win. Or pay to play, I should say.
I'm not too sure about that. I didn't play anything. I just borrowed the disc and played it. But I had fun building the cars, like putting parts in, customizing it, and like they're way more customizable now than they used to be in older games. So
yes.
it was really fun to mess with that. And then when it came to race them, I didn't care. But there was an option to hire a driver for you to do the race. So every race, I would hire a driver and let the game play itself. And then when he won and I got prize money, I'd go upgrade the car again. That's all the game was to me, just a car building simulator.
Yeah.
Well, that's essentially what it is. It is a simulator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they completely took over from Gran Turismo. Like, Gran Turismo was after 4, it all went downhill with 5 because they waited way too long.
Yeah.
And I just adored Forza, and
Yeah.
it's pretty awesome. All right, so, oh, and also Tomb Raider. They released Tomb Raider, and it's amazing on the PC, but you need a crap load of power and a half.
I
Yeah,
should
it's a really new game, so it definitely needs the juice to go with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, comments
On
Anything
Tomb Raider,
else?
yeah, boot physics. I wish my computer was strong enough to have
Yeah.
it out. But to
I
be
saw
fair,
some. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, if it's anything like the last one that came out, the self-titled game.
Oh yeah.
I played it on a really powerful computer, and having everything maxed out when her hair was just like a single
Yes.
strand at a time, it was amazing. If
I
this
was just about to say that. Yeah, with the NVIDIA
Tress effects.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
looked really good.
Yeah, and if this one's the same way, I might just have to get myself a 980 for my PC.
Yeah, because it was weird. The first game they completely went AMD, and in this one they went with NVIDIA tech. So
No, the first one was pretty biased to NVIDIA
Yeah.
because the Tress FX NVIDIA exclusive.
no, Tress effects is AMD.
You want to Google that?
Yep, I will Google it.
All right. I think we're all googling it right now.
AMD Tress effects hair.
Huh?
It's an AMD technology.
Well, look at that.
Yeah, it is. Check that out.
Yep. Because Square at the time was very big into AMD. Because you look at that and Sleeping Dogs. Sleeping Dogs was really AMD bias. Like, oh my god. And then Square just did a 180 and went to the green team. So
That's okay. I enjoyed the green team better personally, anyways.
I've had both.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah,
It's
so
had
have
they have their ups and downs. I don't know. As long as it works and it looks good, it really all depends on the company making it, because they'll screw you one way or the other, depending on what kind of hardware you have. So
Honestly, I find that most NVIDIA and AMD cars are so similar now that it doesn't really matter. Get what you can afford, or do your research.
yeah,
What you have to do.
I don't know. Like after AMD released their R9 stuff, I lost kind of that. Oh my god, it's special. feel to it. I don't know.
Well, it feels like that at the moment primarily because they've been stuck on the same
Architecture?
Well, not architecture, but the same node technology for far too long because they haven't been able to progress. But later this year, they're both going to release their new flagships.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to start seeing another big divide again because they're both built separately, where one's HBM1 and the other one's already on HBM2.
So are we gonna get AMD Rage? You know, we got the Fury. We got to get the Rage going. That's gonna be bitching. So
yeah, personally, I'm anxious for Pascal. I'm hoping I can afford it this year because I'm still running a 770 right now.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
my 1080 Ti there. Yeah. So yeah, that's this week's podcast. Do we have anything else to add, or was that it?
That was it for me.
Well, we can give a sneak preview of what we're doing next week. Next week, the theme for the show is in-home streaming of media. We're going to be talking about small, cheap devices to all the way to expensive, ridiculous. Give me your $5,000 and we can get you a home theater PC thing. So yeah, we'll talk about that next week.
Alrighty then.
Next time on Tech It All.
Next time on Tech It All, we will bring you media streaming. So for the Game It All website, I am Pino25.
Edlers.
And Ricky.
And if you like gaming stuff, PC stuff, tech stuff, film stuff, we got all sorts of reviews and shit going on. Go to the website, go to the Twitters, go to the Facebooks, Tumblr.
Wait, we have a Tumblr?
Yeah. We got a Tumblr. What else do we have? We have other stuff that I'm probably missing. But yeah, just go check it out and give us a like, give us a comment, yada, yada, yada. And we'll see you next week.
Oh, I'd just like to add.
Oh.
Ask us your questions, so maybe we can have a Q&A sometime.
Yeah, we got an FAQ going at some point.
Yeah, I got a small one already written up. I'm just waiting for the editor to give it the go ahead.
He's not on the podcast. All right, so we'll see you next week. Aloha. Oh, it'll be on Saturday next week because, we're important on Saturdays, not on Fridays. All right, goodbye.